Okay, so just before we got on air, we were talking a lot about your growth in the last 18, 24 months, a lot of the changes you've made. And it all comes part of, yourself as a high performing individual. What do you think cultivates this high performance mindset that you've developed? And what do you see as the commonalities in those around you that share this?
I mean, for me personally, I think at the core of it, I think it's gratitude. And I think once you start to appreciate the little things you have, and what you could consider the important things that you have, it just starts to give you drive. It just starts to give you momentum. And so in every aspect of our life, there's something that we need to do. There's something we need to achieve, right? Even within ourselves, we can perform better in terms of health. We can be healthier, we can be physically fitter, we can be stronger. And so once you start appreciating everything, like whether it's family, whether it's the business opportunities you have, whether it's your own physical, being, the more you start to be grateful for what you have, the more you're intrigued to say, I want to do more, I want to be better, right? And that's just all it is. It stems from gratitude. I feel like whether people recognize it as gratitude or not, you essentially have to have an appreciation for something to then want to do more with it and to get more out of it. So I think for me, the quickest answer I can give you is that I started to appreciate life and its value. And then you start looking at each aspect of your life and you start being grateful for, yourself. And then, the ability, not only that you have at the time that let's say you're born with certain natural gifts or whatever, but as you start to investigate other things and you start to learn and you start to acquire knowledge, and then you realize that you've kind of moved from one level to the next and you've been able to achieve more, and then you're even more excited and you try and do more. And then other things happen in your life. You get married, you have children, and then you start being grateful for those things and you start working on how can I achieve more in that. And then the whole high performance thing ultimately comes from you, again, just being so grateful for everything that you have that you need to find a way, right? So it's the difference between, look, you're a coach, you have far more knowledge than me in nutrition and training and so on. But you know that ultimately, once you start understanding the body's capacity and its capability and what you can do, it starts to become exciting to think, man, where can I go? I used to think, and I read about something like this the other day, that at 40, you're pre-programmed from a young age to think by 40 you're old. And I was reading about this, how someone was saying, no, they've conditioned you to believe that you're old. Like, I'm fitter, stronger, feel better than I've ever felt. I'm 41, right? Going on 42. So I think once you start appreciating, you just start doing the things that you feel like you need to do or you want to do. So that, that's all I can say. And that's what people will probably consider as high performance, is just someone who's really eager to get the most out of everything they've got the opportunity to do.
How do you practice gratitude in your day to day?
So there's a number of things that I do. I mean, it can be simple things like, there's not a number of things I can physically write down. I get up every day and I note 5 things. I go into my phone and I note 5 things that I'm grateful for, and I try not to name my kids every time. And actually, it's funny because even something like my eyesight, I intend that day to try to see something through my eyes that will be worth seeing, right? Something, whether it's watching something, but it's an amazing effect. Like, I never, I only recently started to really grasp this, that we have this, we just have this amazing potential, right? So and we limit ourselves. So as an example, I'll just give you a prime example of this. Whenever I've noted down my eyes, or I'm grateful for my hearing, I make an intention that day that I will put something wonderful into these ears or into these eyes. So I will intentionally read something or watch something or go and see something that it can enhance me, like it will make me even better. And so, I think about the things that I'm actually grateful for, and then I try to do something with it. And that's the whole point we started with, which is the high performance side. And then there's other things like reflecting, meditating, praying, all of these things, especially when it comes to reflection, it's just ultimately constantly we've all got opportunity. Like, you'll hear this from all the top performers in the world, that everyone's born with some sort of gift and everyone's got something within them. And I think it's just the more you dig deeper to find that, the less you stay distracted with what's happening out there in the world, and comparing yourself to everyone else. The more time you spend within yourself, the more you discover And then what you'll find is actually there's an ocean. So this whole high performing thing is like, when you see people, you're like, oh, well, how's this guy like run great businesses? And then, then he's fit and healthy. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm saying there's, like not me. I just want to clarify that. But, fit and healthy, but then he's a great family man, but then he's whatever. And then you've got like some guy who can't get off the couch. He's playing PlayStation all day on the dole, right? If that's what they still call it. But they used to call that, that's what it's called in my day. But the point is that, it's like, it's just mentality and mindset. It literally is just, gratitude. So yeah, I practice gratitude every day because I've understood it to be the fuel. Look, motivation is never enough. It's purpose, right? And purpose, when you rewire and reverse engineer and all that stuff, like when you look at it, purpose comes from appreciation. You can't ever get to a big purpose without having an appreciation for something. So unless you along that way can say, I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm going, because the purpose you're going for doesn't exist at the moment. So, and unless you can create that and manifest that gratitude and appreciation for everything that you have, that gives you the ability to build those blocks to get up to wherever you're trying to go. And then you hit that point and you're like, oh wow, I'm up here now. I can go even higher. And it's not about that kind of, I want more and more and more. It's just ultimately about, how much potential do I have? Like how many people can I reach? How much can I do? How many people can I impact? And, how much can I achieve? And that's, I think, ultimately what it boils down to.
So you're speaking to that guy who's on the couch. He's struggling to get himself off the couch, struggling to turn off that PlayStation. What's stopping people from high performance when you're in that state of like you described, where they're just stuck in that day-to-day rudimentary routine and just kind of stuck in a cycle?
Yeah, I think, if I was to give you, we can go on about this for hours and hours, but I think if I was to simplify this for you, environment is a key player, right? So everyone's heard these things, you're the product of the 5 people you have around you and so on. So when you allow other people who may have been influenced by somebody else or may have been through some sort of experience in their life that has led them to have a certain type of mindset or psychology, you're only being influenced by the people who are playing down life, opportunity, what you're capable of. So it's like me saying to you every day, man, like, you can't do it, bro. You just can't do it. And you'll say, well, Azam said I can't do it, so I can't do it, right? So I might as well not do it, right? And now I'm just going to sit around and do something else. And this, where we have procrastination or just kind of staying engaged and involved in things that we're running away from, whatever our responsibilities might be, or we feel we don't have much responsibility, or we feel like we can't do much. So I think one of the key influences is culture. Like it's the environment, it's society we have around us. If we don't encourage and foster hard work and progress, which you'll find in certain communities, in certain cultures that they really don't, then, you don't have that, aspiration to do better. You don't have that aspiration to impact, your own life in a positive way, to explore more, to discover more. And once people get that feeling, that's why you see those people that when you refer to as high performers, there's a feeling you get from going out and just giving it a go, right? There's a feeling you get from just trying and going out and exploring and finding and discovering. And I think, again, if you've been programmed to be, fearful of stepping out the box, or if you're conforming to the norms of the people around you, or if you only feel that's a level, that's why they always encourage, go out, speak to people who've done different things. Look, I pay for courses and training from people who may not be at the same level in terms of experience in overall business, or may not, be at the same, level or whatever in terms of age or whatever. But ultimately, I'm willing to access that knowledge, right? So I have a very different perception of how to get to where you want to be. And I'll go and find that information and I'll study it and I'll learn it and I'll get it from whoever. But other people seem to believe they can't access it, or they're not going to achieve, and they're going to fail anyway, or it's embarrassing to fail, or whatever it might be. So I think ultimately, it's really a lot. It plays a lot to it's a lot to do with the people that you have around you and the environment you surround yourself. The people the environment you're in and the people you surround yourself with. That I feel is a key player in that situation. So if I was to give someone that advice, I would say just spend time with some people who are doing things that you may like the idea of doing. If you see a guy who looks like he's in great shape and you're a bit overweight and you're kind of, you haven't been active and you don't feel like you can do it, just go hang out with the guy. Ask him if you can go to the gym with him, right? If you see someone doing well in business, there's a guy in your local area, he's got a successful building company or something, just like say, can I come and work with you for a bit? Can I, whatever, like, can I spend some time with you? Can I learn from you? And I think that's what it's all about. I think we've got to continuously be striving to learn and to explore. And I think that's the difference. People just are scared. It's fear. Like, we're scared to explore. We don't think there is anything to explore. We don't think we can find anything. We don't think we can do much. And that's what leads to that. Whereas for me, I don't feel like there's enough hours in the day. Like, I'll sleep like 4 or 5 hours because I can't, even if I want to sleep. The other night, I posted it on Instagram. I got 93% sleep quality. I was like, wow, I think I nearly died or something, But normally I just wake up. My body just wants to. I just want to live, man. Like, I don't know how long I've got left. So but I know what's caused that. I know what the reason for that is.
What is it?
It's gratitude, bro. It's just appreciation. I've just got things to do. I'm grateful for the children I've been blessed with. Like, I want to impact their lives as much as I can and be the most positive influence, provide the most positive environment, give them the tools they need. What for? So they can be happy, healthy human beings that can go out and impact the world in a positive way. So if they reach another 10 people, 500, look, we're in the social media era. So on a daily basis, I interact with thousands of people because of social media. So when I decide to say something, I'm not interacting with, my kids at home. I'm interacting with people, many of whom I don't even know. Right. So, it's just, leaving a positive impact on the world, man. Like, that I leave some nice human beings that do good for other people, that are good to themselves, that, that's one part of the motivation. There's also then, the whole thing as being an entrepreneur and what you can do with that and how you can impact the world and how you create great opportunities for people to have great jobs, to have a better quality of life. Like, really, man, like, I'm just one of those people that I'm just wired a certain way. I'd like to be happy and positive myself. And I'd like to make sure that everyone I come in contact with is happy and positive and appreciates this gift that we've got, that's life, man. And, does do what you can individually to make sure that you're living the best life you can and living your version of success. Because it's different for everyone. Like, I know lots of high performers, and happiness is slightly different for each person. Priorities are slightly different for each person, but everyone's successful in their own right. And I'm not even talking, money. I'm saying, like, everyone's, doing their thing. They're enjoying their life. They're happy. They have, they're prioritizing what's important to them. So,
what's your version of success?
I mean, success for me is very simple. It's just the way I am as a person, I guess. But it's just how useful I am, bro, to everyone else. And I include myself in that. Like, am I useful to myself? But my version of success will be, how useful I was in serving the people around me. And actually, that's the thing, bro. I mean, like, look, I'm not going to go off on a tangent here, but even when you see people who achieve high levels of success, they turn to philanthropy later on in life. Entrepreneurs, rock stars, movie stars, whatever. I just feel like we're wired to give, man. And I feel like the more we embrace that there is a feeling we will feel, a certain feeling of accomplishment, a certain feeling of, just everything, love, happiness, whatever it is, when we take care of each other, when we love each other, when we do good for one another. And I know that's the best feeling in the world, bro. And I know, yes, that's amazing, because as an entrepreneur, I can do that through entrepreneurship. I can do it as a family man. I can do it as a brother to you. I can do it as, I can do it to everyone. So that's how I live my life. And I feel the more we become involved in ourselves, the more selfish we become, the more greedy we become it may seem, on the surface level to others that we're having a great time or having a great life, but internally it's just not nice to feel that way. So I feel, for me, I just want to be a useful person. Like, I get up every day saying, like, whether it's business, can I impact people's lives? Can I do something positive? Can I help people? And I hope that everybody that I interact with has that opinion of me, that if Azam's come into our life, he might not be the brightest pea in the pod, but he definitely tries and cares, Yeah,
no, that's brilliant. And you mentioned a few times around the looking within in a potentially negative sense, with, you know, when it's self-centered, selfish, but then looking within from a more spiritual perspective and a more in a deeper perspective to allow more potential in your life. Talk about that journey within that you've experienced. I know you've been speaking a lot about it on Instagram, which has been a nice shift from the usual entrepreneurship that most people in your position would talk about, right? And I think you've been very intentional about this. And but talk about that, because it's very different to hear, which is, and I think it's great, and I think it needs to be, there needs to be more of it.
I'm really happy to hear that, bro, because so a couple of things. I mean, I think one is that like you said, I've thought, look, Instagram's full of how to make money and how to do this and how to do that, and this is what the entrepreneurial life is like, and I've achieved this, so this is my this and this is my that. And I've just found that the ultimate wealth and the ultimate success is the way you feel within yourself. You can have loads of money and be suicidal. You can have fame and not want to be alive. You can do you have all sorts of things that people assume to be the gateway to a certain feeling and the gateway to to happiness and contentment. And so on my journey, I kind of realized that we are much more. And when I started to learn about this, I realized that there's these 4 parts to us, within us, that, we have the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And often what happens is when we become, if you look at the way the world's programming us at the moment, it's purely to the physical and maybe some emotional element as well. And we're heavily neglecting our mental well-being and our, for sure, like spiritual, like what is even that, right? Who's that? So I've just understood that to keep yourself aligned, and when you talk about high performance, that's what it's all about for me. So I want, everyone around me within my own home, and then my extended family, and then my network of friends, and then anybody who I don't even know if I'm interacting with them on social media, to say Azam's, a person of use. Now, I can't be any use if I'm not functioning correctly myself, right? And so what I've understood is that we have to take care of each element, and taking care of yourself spiritually and taking care of that side of you just allows you to be optimized. It allows you to perform, because, and what I mean by that, and it's, again, it's a long conversation, but there'll be points where you go off track. Like you think everything's cool. Your to-do list is there. Everything's on Slack, Asana, like you've got your meetings lined up. You've got your training, you've had your nutrition, you've had your diet, your 200 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, like everything's on track, but something just goes like that, right? And you're like, man, I just don't get this. And it's because we're neglecting our souls, like we're neglecting the spiritual side of ourselves, the side that exists, the side that's there. And I feel like the more that you explore that, the more you discover who you really are, but the more you discover your capacity and your potential. And what I mean by that, and I posted about this earlier today, is the more we spend time purely in our mind and we just look at what's around us and we try and calculate everything, we limit ourselves. But the minute we allow ourselves to go a little bit deeper and we look into our souls and we look into ourselves and we just try to hear outside of that noise, outside of the noise of the world, outside of everything we're being programmed to see, everything we're seeing on social media, everything we're being told, we get these signals and these signs, like whoever you want to say it comes from, God, the universe, whatever, but it's there, right? And we neglect those. And then we find somewhere there's an imbalance later on in our lives, and we don't, we feel a little bit overwhelmed, or we feel a little bit upset, or we feel whatever. But it's, for me, I feel like I've passed that part where I don't neglect my soul. I'm now at this very exciting part where I start to believe things and feel things that I could never do if I was consumed by my old way of living, if I was consumed by the old mentality of how to work, how to live, the busyness, what I prioritized, who I prioritized, who I allowed into my mind and my soul, whatever. So what I say, the bottom line is, bro, if success was completely based on, how much money and how many assets and how much Bitcoin you have by the time you die, right? Then there's certain people, who are basically going to be successful and other people who aren't, right? But I feel like everyone's got the chance to succeed, right? And I feel like everyone's got the chance to feel this thing. And money, as much as it is important, I'm not denying that it is, plays a role, but it serves its purpose, and it's a necessity, it's needed. But there's levels that you reach, whether it's your ideas, whether it's the way you feel, whether it's the way you serve, whether it's just, what you do, that you can't get without, in my opinion, without just going deep. And what I'm trying to do myself is not go too far, right? So you can go very hardcore entrepreneurial, robot mode. I train, I eat, I weigh, I boom, 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 and this is my meetings and this is my Zooms and whatever. And that's how I live my life. Or you can go the other end where you're just spiritual experiences, right? And when you talk about this thing, high performance, I truly believe that if you find a way to allow yourself, I always talk about these 4 elements now, and that I see them as making 25% of who you are. So you've got to give each one that kind of time, right? And if you want to really perform at your highest level, you want to literally cruise, like you're going, you've just got to be aware of the fact that you're giving each aspect of your life that time, that you're taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And so that's what I try to encourage, to have the life you want. Like, I feel very grateful. I'm at a point in my life where I probably used to get in my own way a lot. And I was probably, not helping myself through things that I believe to be the way you lived your life, or what I believe to be a priority. And once I started getting out of my own way and paying attention to what was inside me, because it's inside all of us, right? So the code's in here, but we're all looking out there, right? So we're all looking at him, her, she, what, him, whatever, but it's all inside here. And so when I started looking in here, I found the answers. Now, some of those answers might translate into owning a business and making money and having a nice thing or having a whatever. That's fine. But it's got to come from in there, and it's got to be substituted with everything that, is, and supplemented with everything that is needed to keep that engine and that system running.
Did you have your own experience where you started going down this path? Or did it come out of curiosity, or has it been embedded in you from a young age?
So I would say there's a number of things. So I think that it's one of the reasons why I've introduced my children to spirituality and the importance of like my children. My daughter specifically, she meditates, and both my children understand the value of taking that time out and having that connection with God and so on. So I was raised with, thanks to my parents, so that was there. But then you grow up and you go a little bit off tangent sometimes, and then it was going through my own experiences that I just found that, man, like all these things that I thought I would be happy about, I'm not happy about. So something's missing here. And the more I go down this road, the more people I find who are doing the same stuff where no one's happy, right? So there's all these people with all these Ferraris and things, but no one's actually happy. And I know you're not happy, right? And there's a lot of things that even you can just go to the most basic, doctor or psychologist or person will tell you that all these things you're doing is because you're basically unhappy, right? There's something actually wrong and you need to take care of yourself, right? So there's some sort of mental health issues here. There's some sort of addictive issues here. There's things that don't seem good. So I just feel like I got to a point where I was lucky enough to quickly recognize that I've been conditioned to believe that there are certain things that are a bit more important than others, that they're not. And there's a bit of a mix-up I've got in terms of priority. And I need to shift my attention from other people to within. And I need to start exploring myself and accepting who I am and discovering what's inside of me and what I need to do. And that's the thing, bro. Most of the magic that we have in our lives is private. Like, as much as we're living in this Instagram world and everything's about showing, those true, authentic moments, those moments where you feel a certain way, just talking about feeling a certain way. I used to remember there'd be times where I'd feel certain ways along my journey. And then I'd sometimes sit back and go, I really want to feel that way I felt on that day. And when I'd look at it, I'd be like, it had nothing to do with having money or having anything. It was an experience. It was an emotion, and it's part of something that was so much more than what I could acquire. So I'm not going off the tangent. I love business. I love making deals. I've just invested in 2 new companies in the last month. Like I love business, but it's about not neglecting yourself and not going off track. it's the same thing with fitness, bro. It's the same thing with anything. You can take anything too far, right? And you can take it to the point where you lose its value, you lose its purpose, right? You know, if you want to be healthier, that's fine. But if being healthy means that you don't ever sit with your family because you have to go to the gym all day, then, you know, it's like, it's that thing. So I just found, I've just always been on this. So look, the answer to your question is, bro, is I was raised to serve. I was told that you're here to serve. You serve everybody that comes in contact with you. It's your job. That's just my upbringing. Like, you know, that's who I am. So in terms of when I started to kind of like feel like I'm not at my best, I'm not doing like everything I should be doing. I'm not like the person that I feel I should be. So I used to start thinking like, how can I change this? Like, how can I do better? Like, how can I be a better person? How can I serve everybody in a better way? So then I just wanted to discover, and that's where I found that I'm neglecting parts of me that, help me in my overall performance. So just as a quick point, the more I implemented prayer and meditation and reflection and certain rituals that are not looked upon as being the norm, or, you know, it's becoming more and more relevant now, and people are, you know, meditating and taking time out and understanding that. The more, like, whether it's anger or frustration or feeling anxiety or feeling whatever, like, the more that just started to become less and less of an issue. You know, I used to struggle with a lot of stuff. Like, I get anxious for, you know, and I'd get uptight, and I'd get my adrenaline get out of control, and like, I just feel so much more relaxed, you know, but I don't need to take anything to feel that way. You know, it's internal.
Yeah. And what are your meditation and prayer practices?
So, I mean, look, I pray every day. Like, in Islam, we have like a morning prayer, which is amazing because there's so many things now that are around this 5 a.m. club sort of concept, where you wake up before the break of dawn, you meditate, you think about everything, you're up before the world, and so on. So we have a morning prayer. And then you have a prayer in the middle of the day and whatever. What that just, for me, in simple terms does, bro, is in a busy world where sometimes things can get on top, things can get hectic for you. You kind of just break up the day, you know, and you just get a chance to breathe. It's like having a moment to just, you know, but a moment which allows you to kind of just get away from everything, recognize that God's there. We all have problems. We all have challenges that sometimes we don't know how to deal with. We all have concerns, you know, that we don't always know how to handle. You know, we have things that are coming up in the future, which of course, like, you can't live in the past or the future to that extent, but you do have to plan. So sometimes you think, okay, well, I want to try and achieve this. I'd like for this to happen. So having that kind of connection, daily connection, has always made me feel like I can take on a lot more. I dream a lot, you know, think a lot bigger. I have less fear and doubt. I actually have the opposite. Like, I probably believe I can do way more than I probably can. So, and then meditation wise, my daughter pulls me up and we meditate together. So she takes me through like proper meditation rituals and things. And then I reflect and like, normally you'll see, like, if you ever see me kind of at night posting on social, I'll probably have just gone out and sat on the sun lounger for a bit and just looked at the moon and, you know, just had to think about things, process some thoughts, you know, let out some things. And, you know, I'm lucky in a sense that I'm not having so much interaction, and the times when I would have a lot of interaction and you'd take on a lot of energy and you'd come across a lot of different people going through different things. And I love this analogy that human beings are like garbage trucks and they're just looking to dump. So, you know, you might be anywhere. You could be at work and you've just, you know, you're working with a colleague and he just needs to dump something on you. And, you know, you don't realize he's dumped it on you, and you go home and you're feeling all frazzled and funny and you don't know why. You know, because he's dumped a lot of energy on you. So I think, like, for me, you know, I'll spend a bit of time reflecting, but I think when I reflect with intention, because I think this is the issue. Like, if we don't give ourselves the time to really process, this is the whole thing about the emotional, mental, whatever. Like, if we don't take care of ourselves, if you want to, like, one of the ways I deal with emotion is to look at it, like, to understand it. Like, okay, I'm feeling a certain way. What is it? Like, and the minute you just start having that kind of conversation, it's like you're having, for me, it's like I'm having a conversation with a thing, right? I'm like, well, you know, what is it? What are you like? And then you kind of, everything starts to come into, you know, sort of make sense. And it just starts to become something that's not so much of a big deal. But ultimately what ends up happening is, like, I mean, the only way I can describe it as like, like, I don't know if you remember the film Gremlins, but it just turns into one of those and starts running rampant around. And, it's you kind of like, and you just kind of have to control it, and you kind of have to manage. So, I do a lot of those things, and whether prayer or meditation, and it exists in all faiths, and even outside of faiths. There are people who've found techniques and things that all have been there, in cultures from years and years and years. Hinduism is one of the oldest, religions that has been practicing all sorts of things for, a long, long time. So it's something I heavily encourage, and I encourage it even more so now because of all the other things that we have to battle, right? So once upon a time, we didn't have the way technology has advanced in the last 10 years, the way things have moved forward. Like, we have to have an arsenal of our own. Like, we have to have a toolbox of our own to keep going, like to keep staying on top, to keep improving. So I just see it as being the toolbox, like you need it, and I just don't think I could function without having that allocated time.
I mean, I know for myself, if I ever slip on my habits with meditation or just taking time out in the day, I really feel it. Like, everything just feels harder. You're more anxious. You just feel like you're constantly going into a meeting, into another meeting. Everything just feels faster, right? And you end the day is exhausted because you've not had that still point or that still reference in your day, 100%. Whatever that may be. And yeah, I have to keep checking in with myself to make sure that becomes a non-negotiable, because otherwise the crazy thing inside your head just goes wild, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that's it. And it's like anything, it's managing, right? And I think the most important thing that we don't, a lot of people don't think about is self-management. And that's how you then optimize yourself, and then how you get the most. And look, we are all different. So someone who's looking to feel better mentally, doing things for their mental wellness, may look different for someone else, but discovering what works for you and ensuring that you implement that practice, or you keep yourself around those types of people, or you put yourself in that environment, or whatever it might be, is key. So it's just, it's finding yourself and within yourself what works for you, but making sure that you do it. Because if you don't, what we don't realize, and this is what I never used to realize early on in my career, is that I'm slowing myself down. That's all it is. I'm making it harder. I'm just sticking, a couple of bricks in that backpack, and making it harder for me to move around. That's all I'm doing. And so the minute you start to understand what works for you and how to get the most out of you, and how and it impacts everything, man. Like, when you deal with someone, people can read your energy. I've had people tell me in the past, like, you were off, and I'd be like, I know I was, so, it's.
Yeah. No, go on.
Yeah, no, and that's it. Like, and so I'll be like, okay, yeah, I know why I was off. And I need to make sure I'm not.
Well, last week I was at, a friend of mine came over, and that week was the week I hadn't meditated. I was off my game at work, and anyways, and then she saw me on Saturday and she goes, you been meditating? I was like, I had a few bad days, and I was like, why'd you ask? Like, I could just sense it. Like, you're just not as sharp as you normally are. You're not. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, you can tell these things straight away. Yeah. And so when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's so true. It really does. It manifests outside, doesn't it?
100%, man. I mean, I think, it's so interesting, like, who we are. Like, we, a lot of emphasis has now been placed on this kind of the fitness side and working on ourselves, physically and getting into certain shape and seeing how we can push our bodies in terms of performance and strength and whatever. But what's super interesting is the other levels, right? On how you can get more out of yourself creatively, how you can get more out of yourself in terms of, your relationships and so on by doing these things. And if we looked at it the same way, i.e., like, if I did this workout every day, I'm just going to be so much of a nicer person, or I'm going to be so much more creative, or I'm going to be able to be, I'm going to work so much better, or I'm going to build. And then you look at the long-term effect of that and like, wow, because I was on point. I had all these amazing interactions with people that resulted in these things happening for me down the line. And that may have not happened because I may not have given off the right energy. I may not have been able to, kind of put into those relationships what I needed to. I may not have had the creativity. I mean, there's times, man, where like my brain used to be like, boom, 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 like light bulbs popping off left, right, and center. And then other times I'd be like looking at the screen for 8 hours. Literally, I've done nothing, man. What's going on? So nothing's coming to me. I don't know where I'm at. I've just stayed there staring at the screen all day. So, yeah.
I mean, the physical is often like the first foundational pillar it's the easiest one to access, right? To improve that. Then you move up the pillars. I mean, we have the 5, you mentioned the 4 things. We've got the 5 levels as well. It's the physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual. And, it's the same concept as you mentioned, but I think for many people, physical, if they can master that, it allows them to move up the levels and it can form that vehicle to the higher states of consciousness and being.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that completely. I think one of the other things, though, that makes a physical attractive is what's what you can see, right? So I think why there's so much emphasis on the physical side is because we like seeing 6-packs and we like seeing good bodies and whatever. And I think what you see internally as a person, I don't think we give so much credit for being a really nice person or a really kind person or a really giving person. I don't think they're as socially championed as much as having a great body is. And I think that's one of the things why it becomes the priority. But I think that I completely agree. I actually, like I said, I think they're all equally as important. Yeah. So I don't think any of them actually essentially come first. I think that and in all honesty, I think, look, in my opinion, we're actually like our souls, right? So, that if we know that, everything else is then driven to support that. And I said this earlier on today that we get a higher purpose, we get vision that we wouldn't typically get from anywhere else, other than looking within ourselves, and we get these signals. I've seen it so many times in my life where I've seen things come to me and vision and ideas that I'm like where did that even come from? And I think it's because I've allowed myself to be honest with myself, to look in myself, to accept, like, okay, to accept, like, and that's, I think, one of the things, like, we don't even want to look within. We're scared to look within. We're scared to ask questions. We want to, the culture that you find in a lot of the world now is it's a distraction culture, right? Why are you drinking so much? Why are you consuming so much? Why are we consuming so much of everything, whether it's social or whatever? Well, we're running from something, right? We're obviously hiding from something. And so I think that, for me, I've just become more and more comfortable with who I am. And I think that's the thing where, again, like, loving yourself, and we can go on about this forever and ever, but it's like, there's, loving yourself is great. It's important because the more you, understand and appreciate what you are, and this uniqueness that there was never a you before, there's never going to be you after. The more you try and discover, like, for me, I want to discover, like, what is it that's in there? Like, what can I do? What can I be? And I find new stuff all the time. And that's what makes it so exciting. So I want to push and I want to try more, not because I want more. Like, I don't need more physical stuff. What I want is more experiences, and what I want is to create more value and more experience for others. So I don't need more money to go and buy more stuff. Like, everything I do every day, and every time I explore new things, I'm like, finding a new way to do something better. I mean, I'll give you an example of this. I've always helped out and tried to share advice and mentored, and probably over the last decade, I've done loads of it. And a lot of the times I felt like it was inefficient, or I felt like I was having my time wasted, or I felt like people didn't really truly appreciate it or value it. So when I moved out here and I, decided to kind of restructure my timetable and my plans or whatever, I said, you know what, I'm actually going to commit a little bit of time, tiny little bit of time, to a few people where I'm going to do proper one-to-one coaching, right? I'm not going to just do these responding to your DMs. Do you want a 20-minute call with me? Whatever. I'm going to do proper one-to-one coaching. And I'm going to really try to help people. And when I started doing that, I really started to massively help people. And that what I realized is that, I've been trying to help people all this time, but probably, I'll always keep sharing on social media, and I'll always keep sharing whatever value I can. But we all know that, like, you giving me a tip on eat celery or coaching me, I'm going to get 2 different results, right? So I'm always in every area, whether it's serving people, helping, doing whatever. I'm always trying to find ways to do things better, which make me feel better, which make make me, feel like I'm having, more of an impact. I'm having more of an impact. And it's that. And like, even as an example, the responsibilities that I had to my children, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, was totally different to where they are now and what they need now in the next chapter of their lives. So the game keeps changing, right? And you've got to keep leveling up and adapting and working out what's coming next. And that's it. Even for us, like, as men, you're going to get older. You've got to start thinking about your body. Like, okay, well, I need to start looking after it in a different way now. I need to start thinking differently, eating differently, training differently. I can't do what I could do. My body can't handle the stuff. So there's always a reason to move. We just can choose not to, or we can choose to. It's kind of as simple as that.
Do you think much about mortality?
I guess yes and no. I would say that all I try to do at the moment is be happy that I'm doing enough to optimize myself to get the most out of whatever is left.
Yeah.
So I'm more concerned about, like, if there's 5 years or 10 years, I don't want to look back on that and go, because of my diet or my habits, or, my priorities, or like I mentioned this yesterday on Instagram, that, whatever we commit to, we commit our life, we're giving up our life in exchange. Doesn't matter what it is. So right now, when you and I have chosen to talk, you've chosen to do a podcast, I've chosen to come on the podcast with you. We're paying for this with our life. This hour's never coming back, ever. So hopefully the intention, and this is a good example, by the way, because what you're trying to do is create value. So both of us will learn something from each other, will stimulate some sort of thought. So we have an impact on one another. We then have an impact, hopefully, on the people that see this. And you create this ripple effect where a conversation you and I have had maybe provides someone with something that impacts and improves their life in a positive way. So I would hope it's a great way to spend an hour of our lives, but we're never getting that hour back. And this goes back to, like, the point about the guy sat on the PlayStation, right? Because he hasn't allowed himself to go through those processes, and maybe he's kept himself in an environment that hasn't shown him the true value of his life and his time, and how limited it is. Because the one thing we're guaranteed is death in this life. There's nothing else that we're guaranteed. It's the one thing, like, you're definitely going to die, mate. That's it. So I think it's that. And I think the more we think about these things in that context, the more of a life of purpose that you live in, a life that makes you feel good. Like, we all know, man, there's times where we feel good. There's artificial feelings that we can create that are temporary or superficial, but ultimately there's that deeper level. And so, like, you and I now, whatever the date is today, 3rd of November, 4 o'clock in the UK, 6, 7 o'clock in Bahrain, like, we chose to spend that portion of our life doing this. You're not a bad guy to look at, so I don't mind. But but you get my point. Like, that it's that depth, bro. That, like, okay, what have we spent this hour on? And when you start to really think about that, and again, it's a knock-on effect. Like, look, don't get me wrong. There are people out there who are totally money driven. Their focus and their ambition is, I need to be bigger and better than the next guy. I need to outdo everyone. I need to beat this guy and compete with this guy. Not everybody who's doing well in other people's perception is actually doing well, right? They are on some tangent, and they're consumed by something that is probably not healthy. It's probably not the right way to live your life. And you hear this a lot from people, even Steve Jobs, when he does that really famous quote, which I can't recall properly, but it's about him talking about if he could go, basically with, he had cancer, and he was like, well, if I could have lived my life, or if I could have this and that. So I always look at it that way. And that's why I've actually also become very selective now. So I was always someone that would be available for everyone and do whatever. And I'm becoming more selective in understanding that, I have a limited canister, right? And I need to make sure that I go and sprinkle that wherever, it's most needed and most wanted, and most useful. There's no point me going spraying it everywhere and everyone's like, yo, mate, we're already drowning. Like, we don't need any more, So it's, yeah.
I appreciate you being here and sharing a lot of value to the listeners here.
My pleasure, bro.
So if people are watching this on YouTube, you'll see in the background it says "Made by Grafting" with the word "Graftism" underneath. Azam's in Bahrain now, but he's just moving out of the way for it. There we go, Graftism. But he's the owner of one of the best gyms in London, Graftism. So if anyone who's around sort of the northwest, North London, you'll be familiar of Graftism. You'll have seen it all over Instagram. It's one of the best gyms in London. Tell us about why you started on Graftism and what the ambition of Graftism is.
Okay, great. So great question. So where the name Graftism stemmed from ultimately was as an entrepreneur, and we haven't talked much about business, so we'll do this now. As an entrepreneur, I always feel like what can you do to have a positive impact on society? Now, there's lots of things, you can do green business, you can do environmentally friendly business, you can do all sorts of stuff. And I wanted to create a business that revolved around mindset and habit, positive mindset and habit, and a good ideology. So everyone's always called me a grafter, and I always, you could literally have any call with me at any time of the day and be like, Azam, what are you up to? I'll most likely say I'm grafting. It could be 1 a.m, it could be 1 p.m. It doesn't matter. So I love this word grafting. And then anyway, I said, you know what? I wish I could create a brand and a culture that encouraged hard work, that we were proud to share the work we were doing rather than the Rolex or the fancy restaurant or the fancy holiday, and that being the priority thing that we must show, whether we've achieved it or not, or we can afford it or not, whatever. How nice would it be if young people championed each other for working hard, championed each other on their journey? And the quote that you see when you walk into Graftism is dream big, work hard, stay focused, and surround yourself with good people. And I felt like that would be a great ideology. A lot of the brands encourage like perfectionism and, kind of lifestyles that are, often unattainable or kind of not everyone's going to do that. Not everyone wants to do that, right? So I had this vision, and then the opportunity came to, move into the gym space. And I just thought, wow, what an amazing place to foster this ideology, to start building this ideology. So there was one aspect that I wanted, knowing that people come to a place with a positive mindset, they want to improve themselves, they're going to come and work hard. So the one idea was that we would be able to build this ideology and encourage this ideology of working for what you want, in appreciating the process, enjoying the people, enjoying everything that's happening. Because even when you speak to some of the highest performers in the world, they'll tell you that once they hit their target, they exit a company and they want, and Elon Musk was an example of this. He put all his money back in and went again, right? It's the process, and we're too fixed on end results, not understanding everything that's going on at that moment in time. So that one aspect of the business is ideology. The other aspect, which is commercial, is that I felt like there was I've grown up in bodybuilding gyms, and I just felt like going to these gyms that they hadn't caught up with where the consumer was. So the consumer now had, a phone in their hands. They wanted experience. They wanted to go to a place where there was great lighting, great decor. They want to take pictures. They want to hang out with people. They want good music. They want the best equipment. They want it to be clean. So there's a lot of stuff that I felt was lacking in most gyms. And most of it was experience and environment that, just wasn't quite there. So I was like, look, there's a lot of opportunity to enhance the overall experience. So they're going to go and train, and they're going to train hard, but let's create an environment where people get together, where people have fun, where people can do the whole social media. They can have an online and offline experience. And so that's how Graftism sort of developed. And, ultimately what I had envisaged people wanted is, because that's all I'm there to do, is to serve people and create an environment that they want to go and train in and experience and meet people and so on. So it exactly worked out the way I'd envisaged. So the goal has always been to create, globally, the kind of an experience-centric gym that caters for the modern day gym goer, the modern day weightlifters, right? Who have different tastes now. When I was a young kid, the guys would roll in from the building sites in their building gear and train. Now people show up, fitted out, leggings, tops, shoes, everyone's kitted out. They have a different agenda at the same time when they want to go to the gym. So we ran the gym for a year, and then basically COVID hit. So since 2020, early 2020, till like more or less the middle of this year, it's been like we can't really do much because we don't know where the world's going. So we can't just start. But I was in the process of acquiring a few new sites pre-COVID. And then COVID's happened. I've emigrated. So we're now revisiting. So we're in the process of now looking at new opportunities. I have opened the opportunity for franchise, but Graftism isn't a typical franchise opportunity. I've got like hundreds of requests, but it's very much about strategical partnerships to deliver the same experience, if not an even more enhanced experience in that area. So it's not a franchise that I want to sell. Graftism is very important to me, and it's something that I'm happy to build over 20 years because the ideology and what it stands for and what I believe it will be eventually. So everything has to be spot on. So I am looking at some new sites now. We will open some more gyms, and we will be launching the lifestyle brand so that people can buy and wear the stuff that, you know, represents something that they may want to wear, that represents something different to just a random name that we've made up and put on a t-shirt, paid a few influencers and, you know, generated some sales. So at the core of it, if you look at the real core, you know, the gyms are just supposed to be destinations where people go to become better, to be better, to build real relationships with people, to have a great experience online and offline. And people overall become better mentally, socially, exactly like you said. So if one thing I know about Graftism, and I've had many people vouch for this, and I experienced it myself, is that many people have developed better social relationships because we cultivate that there. People have made friends. I've had people tell me, like, I come to the gym, I train with people I don't even know, I make friends. And I always found, you know, I can go on and on, but I found many issues in other gyms where you feel a bit alienated, or you didn't feel comfortable talking to people, or women may not feel comfortable going to those gyms or whatever. So that's the whole idea, that Graftism actually hits each one of those 5 points that you mentioned. And that anybody that goes there, you know, there are certain people, of course, who will be more inclined to train in a Graftism type gym, and there'll be other people who want to go to a budget gym or a health club or whatever. So we know who we cater for. So the goal is to build out, you know, real communities and real value all over the world. So we're looking around at the moment for, you know, that's one sticking point with gyms, is that, you know, locations, and especially in the UK, planning and things like that slows the process down a bit. But yeah, we'll open more in the UK for sure. And then we'll start now looking, we've already started looking in the Middle East as well. So Dubai would most likely be the first destination. So that's the plan. But, you know, as I said, it's not a just go out, blast out 100 gyms. Anyone can own one. We're operating them all over the place. We don't know what's happening. We've lost the value. We've lost experience. You know, it's not something I'm so desperate to scale. I have plenty of businesses, plenty of opportunity to keep, you know, kind of doing whatever I want to do without tarnishing something that I think can be amazing. So to conclude on Graftism, once upon a time there was there still is, but there's an exciting brand called Gold's Gym, which in its era, you know, the Arnie's and the Louis Ferengos and so on, you know, that was the last gym brand that did what it did in its way in the industry. Then there is no other brand. There is no other global brand that you could tie in and say in the weightlifting kind of bodybuilding world that has this kind of, that fits into the puzzle of where people are today and people's expectations today. So yeah, so that's the plan.
How did you get into training?
So my dad, bro, was a competitive weightlifter.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. So training is like, yeah. So he used to compete in weightlifting competitions, and we'd go to the gym with him, you know, when we were young. So I've always had a passion for it. And in all honesty, bro, it's like, it's a bit of a balance thing, because when I train, and I train really intensely, of course, as you know, it takes up a lot of time, right? You know, it takes up a lot of energy. The one thing, when I train the way I like to train, you just find me sleeping everywhere. Like I'll be asleep in the living room, in the kitchen. So I can't really kind of push it the way I'd like to. It's just like, I love training. Like I love it. Going to the gym, training heavy, but it just affects me in a certain way that I've got to try and find this balance. So I'm more cardio now. I do weights, but I'm kind of more volume, and I'll eat, but I won't overeat. But if I could, I would be training super heavy, you know, and I'd be massive.
Are you a low volume, high intensity, Dorian Yates style training?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Dorian. I grew up in the Dorian era. So Dorian was the first guy that I went to a seminar with and watched his training and whatever. So Dorian Yates's training is exactly what I would be doing every day.
Yeah, that's definitely the one to put you to sleep, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So that's it. And whenever I'd get into training, I would just be asleep all the time. Like I just want to sleep. And so with business and the things, the way I need to perform and the way I need to think, I've had to find a bit of a balance. But I enjoy it, man. I do more things. Like I swim a bit now, and swimming's really cool. It's a totally different type of cardio, and it kind of hits your body in a different way. And then I walk a bit more now. And I've chucked a cross trainer in the room just to kind of force me to just get on it a bit more often. Because otherwise you'll make an excuse, like for me, I'll be like, oh, it's late or it's really hot. I mean, it's probably not an excuse. You physically can't walk around in 45 degrees heat. So, it's every day. So yeah, it's, so I'm just more of a balance now, but I absolutely love training. I love weight training. I love going to the gym, and, I wish I could spend 2 or 3 hours, but it's priority. Like I want to stay healthy and fit, but I just don't have 2 or 3 hours with everything else I would like to prioritize as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with the Graftism brand. That's obviously where we met. We met in Graftism. So there's a social connection for you. So I can definitely attest to it. And I've got some of my best friends still train there. They live locally in Bushy, Watford and Edgware, and they all travel to Graftism. So one of my favorite gyms for sure.
On social, I see a lot of the lads still there, and a lot of people still, kind of from the crew.
Yeah, awesome. So to wrap up here, Azam, tell me where people can find you. Tell the audience, tell the audience where people can find out more about you, your work, your gyms, your businesses, etc.
So, I mean, most of my time online I spend on Instagram. So it's just Azam Jaafri at Azam Jaafri on Instagram. My intention is to start becoming a little bit more active. I did start a podcast, and I'm up to about episode 4. I've had a couple of commitments where I had to do some stuff for. I had a BBC thing and some other stuff which took up my slot. So I had a Sunday slot for podcasting. So my next one now I will deliver this week. So I have a podcast, and again, that's probably as we've discussed. I hit more on kind of practical, spiritual, and kind of performance, but looking after ourselves. A lot of people are talking about all the other ways to be a high performer. And then when you do go into the spiritual side, people feel like they've kind of gone a bit too far and they want to live a practical life. But how do you kind of have this, how do you use it all? I'm a mom, I'm busy, I've got kids, or, I'm a dad and I've got, I've got my kids and my job and my this, and like, how do I just kind of do my best at my normal life? And someone telling you to go and sit in the field for 4 or 5 hours, burn some incense, and you're like, mate, I haven't got the time to go to the field. I don't even know where to get things from to burn. Like, it's just trying to find that overall balance. But yeah, so mostly there. But I'm hoping in the coming months to get a lot more active. There was a time when I did a bit more YouTube and stuff, but hopefully getting more active. I have a couple of new companies that I've invested in that I'll be launching. I'll be talking more about in the coming weeks and stuff as well. So onwards and upwards, man. Just, but keep moving, keep pushing. But wherever you find me, and mostly on Instagram, I'll be trying to share whatever I can that I think may be of some sort of value to someone and may, give them something to think about during their day.
Awesome. And then make sure you check out their gyms as well, at Graftism Gym.
Welcome anytime.
Last 2 rapid fire questions. What's your favorite book that you've read in the last year that you'd recommend to people?
Good question. I've read a couple of books that I liked. There's one called The Science of, I think it's The Science of Intelligent. Let me see where it is. I forgot the name of it, but it's Science of. Can I get up for a second?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I need to share it. So
yeah, go ahead.
Let me. I'll have to Google it for you. 1 second. Science of Intelligent Achievement, something like that.
Okay.
It's a very good book. I remember the content of the book, less the name.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully you remember a bit, given you're recommending it.
It's a book that I've actually read anytime. Science of Intelligent Achievement.
Okay.
Yeah, the Science of Intelligent Achievement. That's what it is.
Best book I've read all year, but I can't remember the name.
So I can't remember. It's getting old. But no, so that is one. That is a book that I've read recently. I can't remember. It may be in pre-COVID, maybe in before I moved out here. But that's a book that I definitely recommend. The Science of Intelligent Achievement. Yeah.
Awesome. Check that out. And who should we have on the podcast next?
You on your podcast?
Yeah.
Who are you what kind of guests do you have on? Like who do you kind of typically?
I mean, we have people in health, fitness, mindset, performance, all that sort of that realm, that area.
I mean, look,
it can be anyone that can add value.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine, Scott Alexander. He's a well-known entrepreneur, and he's recently launched, not recently, but he's been building a AI in health and fitness for the last 7 years, where they've just had a 30 million or 50 million valuation. He's a serious guy, and very well known. He was quite an entrepreneur back in his day. Quite a famous guy. He used to come on TV and stuff, and he was quite flamboyant with all the kind of 20 cars and things like that. But he's a bit more serious now. So he's got this technology which is phenomenal from the stuff that I've seen of it. So if you want, I'll try and make a connection with Scott, and he's probably someone that's worth it. Just set up a new office in Mayfair. There's a lot of stuff happening, very interesting stuff that you'll probably find super interesting, because they do all this sort of stuff around. It's technology that's not like any that's out there.
Awesome. So yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Azam. I know we've been trying to do this for about 3 years, so it's a pleasure to have you on and share a lot of value with the audience.
Thank you so much, bro.